The silence in our apartment was deafening. 3 days had passed since the explosive family dinner, and my husband hadn't spoken more than 10 words to anyone. I watched him from the kitchen doorway, hunched over his laptop at the dining table, the tension visible in his shoulders. The remnants of what should have been a joyful family gathering still lingered in the air like a toxic cloud. "James," I said softly, approaching with 2 mugs of coffee. "We need to talk about what happened. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you." James looked up, the dark circles under his eyes telling me he'd barely slept. "What's there to talk about, Liz? My sisters accused you of manipulating me. They called you a liar to your face at our dinner table." His voice was controlled but trembling with anger. I sat down across from him, wrapping my hands around the warm mug. The weight of Sunday's disaster pressed down on both of us. What should have been a simple announcement about our future plans had turned into a battlefield. A battlefield where I was the enemy. "I never thought they'd react like that," I said, the memory making my stomach twist. "When we told them we were postponing having children to focus on our careers first, I thought they'd understand." James let out a bitter laugh. "Understand? My sisters have been planning our children's lives since our wedding day. Remember how they bought us those baby clothes last Christmas? As a hint?" It had been a recurring theme throughout our 2-year marriage. James's sisters, Melanie and Rebecca, had their own ideas about our timeline. According to them, I should have been pregnant within 6 months of saying "I do." They'd shower us with not-so-subtle comments about biological clocks and how their friends' children were already walking and talking. But to claim I tricked you into marriage by promising children right away, that I'm suddenly changing the story? The hurt bubbled up again. "James, they looked me in the eye and said I was lying about our plans." The dinner had started pleasantly enough. James's sisters had brought their husbands, and we'd prepared a feast to celebrate Rebecca's promotion. Then, over dessert, Melanie had asked about our baby plans for what felt like the 100th time. James had squeezed my hand under the table and announced that we'd decided to wait another 2 years before trying. We'd been saving for a house, focusing on our careers, and wanted to travel a bit first. It was a decision we'd made together months ago, after countless late-night conversations about what we wanted our lives to look like. What happened next still played in my mind on repeat. "That's not what you said at Thanksgiving," Melanie had challenged, her smile fading. "You told Mom you were trying this year." "No, we didn't," James had replied calmly. "We've always planned to wait." Rebecca had joined in then, wine glass clutched tightly. "James, come on. You've wanted kids your whole life. You used to talk about having 4 of them before you turned 30. People change, Becca. Liz and I made this decision together." That's when everything imploded. "Did you, though?" Melanie had asked, her eyes narrowing as she looked directly at me. "Or did Liz convince you that her career was more important than starting a family?" The accusation had hung in the air like a slap. "Excuse me?" I'd managed to say, feeling all eyes on me. "We're not stupid, Liz," Rebecca had added. "James has always wanted children. Then suddenly, after marrying you, he's not ready? You told our mother you couldn't wait to be a mom when James proposed." "I did want children. I still do," I'd said, my voice shaking. "Just not right now." "So you lied to get the ring," Melanie had concluded, crossing her arms. Classic. Now, 3 days later, the sting of their words hadn't faded. "I didn't lie to anyone," I said to James, pushing away the memory. "We talked about this so many times before we got married. We agreed to wait until we were financially secure." "I know, Liz." James reached across the table and took my hand. "I know exactly what we discussed. My sisters are the ones who created this fantasy timeline in their heads. But why would they attack me like that? They've known me for 4 years. James sighed, rubbing his face. They've always been protective. After my divorce from Katie, the ghost of his first marriage hovered between us. James had married his college sweetheart at 23, only for her to leave him 2 years later for her boss. His sisters had witnessed his heartbreak, had helped him rebuild his life. They'd been suspicious when he started dating again. Especially me, 5 years younger and ambitious about my career. They think I'm like Katie, I realized aloud. They think I married you with secret conditions. James's phone lit up on the table. Another message from Rebecca. They'd been texting him constantly since he'd asked them all to leave after their outburst. The messages ranged from self-righteous defensiveness to demands that he see reason. "I'm done with their meddling," James said, silencing his phone. "They've crossed a line, Liz. They insulted my wife, questioned our marriage, and tried to create problems where there aren't any." "They're still your family," I said quietly, though part of me was relieved by his anger. For a terrifying moment during that dinner, I'd worried he might side with them. "You're my family now." His voice was firm. "And if they can't respect you, respect us and our decisions as a couple, then they don't need to be in our home." I knew how much his sisters meant to him. They'd been through everything together: their parents' messy divorce, their father's remarriage, their mother's illness. They were a tight-knit unit, the three of them against the world. Until I came along. "I don't want to be the reason you lose your relationship with them," I said, though the memory of their accusatory faces made me doubt my own generosity. "You're not the reason," James insisted. "Their behavior is the reason. Their inability to see me as an adult capable of making my own choices is the reason." My phone pinged with a text notification. I glanced down to see Melanie's name on my screen. With hesitation, I opened the message. "We need to talk. Just us women. No James." I showed the message to my husband, who scowled. "Don't meet with them alone. They'll just try to manipulate you." "Maybe I should hear them out," I suggested. "Maybe they were just shocked and said things they didn't mean." James shook his head, firmly. "After what they said to you? Absolutely not." Before I could respond, the doorbell rang. We froze, looking at each other. It was past 9 on a Wednesday night, not a typical time for visitors. "Are you expecting anyone?" I asked. James stood up slowly. "No." We moved to the front door together. James looked through the peephole and cursed under his breath. "It's them," he whispered. "Both of them." My heart raced as he unlocked the door and opened it just enough to see his sisters standing in the hallway. "What are you doing here?" he asked coldly. "We need to talk," Rebecca said, her voice thick as if she'd been crying. "Please, James. This is ridiculous." "There's nothing to discuss," James replied. "Not after what you said to Liz. That's why we're here," Melanie interjected. "To apologize." I stepped forward, standing beside my husband. Both sisters looked tired, their expressions a mixture of defiance and remorse. "Can we please come in?" Rebecca asked, looking directly at me. 5 minutes. Against my better judgment and James's tense shoulders, I nodded. 5 minutes. They filed in silently, and we moved to the living room. The sisters perched on the edge of our sofa while James and I took the armchairs, opposite, a deliberate distance between us. "Well?" James prompted, his arms crossed. Melanie cleared her throat. "We were out of line on Sunday. We shouldn't have accused Liz of anything, and we're sorry." Her words sounded rehearsed, her eyes never quite meeting mine. "But," Rebecca added, and I felt James stiffen beside me. "We're concerned, James. This isn't like you. You've always talked about wanting children right away." "People change, Becca," James repeated his words from Sunday. "Liz and I made this decision together. End of story." "But it feels so sudden," Melanie pressed. "One minute you're asking us about good school districts, the next you're postponing indefinitely." 2 years is not indefinitely," I interjected, keeping my voice calm. We have a plan. We're saving for a house. I'm up for a promotion that would give us better financial security and parental leave benefits. So, it is about your career, Rebecca said, her accusation thinly veiled. James stood up abruptly. That's it. You said you came to apologize, but you're doing the exact same thing again. We are apologizing, Melanie insisted. We just want to understand. No, you want me to do what you think is best, James countered. You've been this way my entire life. When I married Katie, when I changed majors in college, when I took my current job, always thinking you know better than me. We're your sisters, Rebecca said defensively. We care about you. If you care about me, James said, his voice dangerously quiet, then you'll respect my marriage and my wife. Liz and I decide when we have children. Not you, not Mom, not anyone else. An uncomfortable silence fell over the room. I could see the sisters exchanging glances, some unspoken communication passing between them. There's something else, isn't there? I asked, suddenly certain. This isn't just about children. Melanie looked at Rebecca, who nodded slightly. We found something, Melanie said carefully. On your social media. My stomach dropped. What could they possibly have found? What are you talking about? James demanded. Rebecca pulled out her phone and handed it to him. This post from Liz's college friend, from before you were engaged. James looked at the screen, his expression unreadable. Then he passed the phone to me. It was a screenshot of a comment I'd made on my friend Tara's post about her pregnancy announcement dated 3 years ago. My own words stared back at me. So happy for you. I'm still not sure the mom life is for me, but you're going to be amazing at it. My face went hot. You went digging through years of my social media comments? We were trying to understand, Melanie defended. And this proves our point. You told James you wanted children to secure the marriage, but you've never actually wanted them. James let out a laugh of disbelief. Are you serious right now? A comment from 3 years ago? You've always said you wanted a big family, Rebecca insisted. And now suddenly you're fine waiting because Liz wants to focus on her career? After we find evidence she doesn't even want children at all? I stood up, my hands shaking. That comment was from before I even met James. People's feelings about children change. Mine did. I do want children, just not on your timeline. Convenient, Melanie muttered. That's enough, James snapped. You've overstayed your 5 minutes. I want you both to leave. James, be reasonable, Rebecca pleaded. We're just looking out for you. No, you're trying to sabotage my marriage, he retorted. And I won't let you. If you can't support us and respect our decisions, then you don't need to be part of our lives. The sisters looked shocked. You can't be serious, Melanie said. You're choosing her over your family? Liz is my family, James replied without hesitation. And until you can accept that and apologize, sincerely apologize, I don't want to hear from either of you. Rebecca stood up, tears in her eyes. You're making a mistake. She's manipulating you, just like Katie did. I flinched at the comparison, but James remained unwavering. Get out, he said quietly. Now. After they left, the apartment felt emptier somehow, despite the toxic atmosphere having dissipated. James sat heavily on the sofa, his head in his hands. I can't believe they did that, he murmured, digging through your social media to find ammunition. I sat beside him, my mind racing. James, about that comment, he looked up at me. Liz, I don't care what you said 3 years ago. People change. I know you want children eventually. We've talked about it enough times. I do, I assured him, relief washing over me. I really do. Just not yet. He nodded, wrapping an arm around me. I know. And that's our decision to make. As we sat in the quiet aftermath, I couldn't help but wonder if this was truly the end of his relationship with his sisters, and what that would mean for our future. especially when we did eventually have children. Would they ever accept me as family? Would they ever trust that I wasn't manipulating their brother? More importantly, had I just witnessed my husband choose me over the most important people in his life? And what responsibility did that place on my shoulders? The weight of those questions settled around us as we held each other in silence, the full consequences of this family fracture still unknown. 3 weeks passed in a strange new reality. James's phone remained eerily silent. No calls or texts from his sisters after that night. I'd catch him staring at family photos sometimes, his expression unreadable. The weight of his choice hung between us, unspoken but ever present. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. "Your mother called again," I said one evening, finding James working in our home office. "She wants us over for dinner this weekend." His shoulders tensed visibly. "What did you tell her?" "That we'd think about it." I leaned against the doorframe. "James, you can't avoid your entire family forever." "Watch me," he muttered, but there was no conviction in his voice. Since the confrontation, James's mother had been caught in the middle. According to her tearful phone calls, Melanie and Rebecca had given her their version of events, that I was controlling James, keeping him from having the family he'd always wanted. Now she was desperate to fix things. "You should talk to her," I said gently. "Explain our side." "Our decision doesn't need explaining," James replied, shutting his laptop with more force than necessary. "We don't owe anyone a timeline for having children." I approached his desk, perching on the edge. "I know. But this silence isn't healthy. Your mother loves you." "She also believes my sisters," he said bitterly. "Did you hear what she said last time? That we should compromise on when to have children? As if that's anyone's business but ours." I sighed, remembering the awkward conversation. His mother had suggested that perhaps we could meet in the middle and try for a baby next year instead of waiting 2 years. The suggestion had sent James into a cold fury. "We should at least hear her out," I insisted. "This dinner might be a chance to clear the air." James looked up at me, his expression softening slightly. "Always the diplomat." "One of us has to be," I smiled, taking his hand. "I don't want to be the reason your family falls apart." "You're not," he said firmly. "Their inability to respect boundaries is the reason." Despite his resistance, James eventually agreed to dinner that Saturday. As we drove to his mother's house, anxiety knotted my stomach. Ever since meeting James's family 3 years ago, I'd felt like an outsider. His mother had been polite but distant, clearly comparing me to Katie, his ex-wife whom she'd adored. His sisters had been protective, watching my every move for signs that I might hurt their brother. Now that suspicion had exploded into open hostility. "Remember," James said as we pulled into the driveway, "we present a united front. We made this decision together." I nodded, gripping his hand tightly before we approached the front door. James's mother, Eleanor, greeted us with forced brightness, hugging James firmly and offering me a brief embrace that felt more obligatory than warm. The smell of her signature pot roast filled the house, James's favorite, no doubt prepared as a peace offering. "I'm so glad you both came," she said, leading us to the living room. "We need to sort this nonsense out." My heart sank at her phrasing. This wasn't starting well. "There's nothing to sort out, Mom," James replied evenly, sitting beside me on the sofa. "Melanie and Rebecca disrespected my wife and our marriage. Until they apologize sincerely, we're keeping our distance." Eleanor sighed dramatically. "They're your sisters, James. Family fights sometimes, but we don't cut each other off." "This wasn't a simple fight," I interjected quietly. "They accused me of manipulating James and lying about wanting children." Eleanor's expression tightened. "They were shocked, that's all." You have to understand. James has talked about having children since he was young. When you two announced you were waiting, it caught everyone off guard. That doesn't excuse what they said, James insisted. Maybe not, Eleanor conceded. But they found that comment you made, Liz, about not wanting children. You can understand their concern. The fact that she'd brought up the social media comment immediately told us everything. This wasn't a neutral dinner. This was an ambush. A comment from years ago doesn't define how I feel now, I explained, keeping my voice calm despite my rising anger. People's feelings about children evolve. Mine certainly have since meeting James. Eleanor nodded, but her eyes remained skeptical. Of course, dear. But you can see why they worried. James was devastated after Katie left. None of us want to see him hurt again. I'm not Katie, I said, the comparison stinging. And treating me like I'm going to hurt him is unfair. James put his arm around me. Liz and I have been clear with each other from the beginning. We want children. Just not yet. 2 years isn't forever. Eleanor was about to respond when the front door opened. My stomach dropped as familiar voices floated in from the hallway. James stiffened beside me. Mom, we brought dessert. Melanie's voice cut off as she entered the living room and saw us. Rebecca bumped into her from behind. What are they doing? Here? James demanded, turning to his mother. Eleanor had the grace to look guilty. I thought if we all sat down together. You ambushed us, I said quietly, the betrayal evident. Don't be dramatic, Rebecca scoffed, dropping a bakery box on the coffee table. We're family. We need to talk this out. There's nothing to talk. Out, James stood, pulling me up with him. You know how I feel. Until you can sincerely apologize to Liz, we have nothing to discuss. We tried apologizing, Melanie protested. You threw us out. That wasn't an apology, I countered. That was another accusation wrapped in insincere words. Eleanor stepped between us, hands raised placatingly. Please, everyone sit down. Dinner's ready, and we can discuss this calmly. James hesitated, looking at me. I could see the conflict in his eyes. Anger at being manipulated, desire to resolve the tension, loyalty torn between his family and me. I gave a slight nod. Running away wouldn't solve anything. We moved to the dining room in tense silence. Eleanor bustled around, serving food while making strained small talk about neighbors and weather. No one touched their wine glasses. How's work going, James? Eleanor finally asked, desperate to break the ice. Fine, he answered curtly. I'm up for a promotion next month. That's wonderful, she smiled. And Liz, still enjoying the marketing firm? Before I could answer, Melanie cut in. Is that why you're postponing having children? For a promotion? And just like that, we were back to square one. Our decision involves multiple factors, I replied carefully. Career growth is one of them. Seems selfish, Rebecca muttered, loudly enough for everyone to hear. James set down his fork with a clatter. And that's exactly the attitude that got you kicked out of our apartment. James, Eleanor admonished, let's be civil. I'm trying, Mom, he said through gritted teeth. But they're still attacking our decisions. We're not attacking, Melanie insisted. We're concerned. You've always wanted children, James. Always. Now suddenly you're postponing indefinitely because Liz wants to focus on her career. 2 years is not indefinitely, I repeated, frustration building. And what happens in 2 years when you get another promotion opportunity? Rebecca challenged. Will it be another delay? Another excuse? That's enough, James snapped. You don't get to question our timeline. Eleanor dabbed her lips with a napkin. Perhaps there's room for compromise. Maybe try next year instead? I stared at her in disbelief. That's not how this works. Having children isn't something you compromise on with extended family. We're just looking out for James, Melanie insisted. He's not getting any younger. I'm 34, James said incredulously. Not 70. Men can have children later in life, Rebecca argued. Women can't. Is that why you're waiting, Liz? Stringing him along until it's too late? The accusation hung in the air like poison. James stood so abruptly his chair nearly toppled. We're leaving, he announced. Mom, this was a setup, and you two. He glared at his sisters. Haven't learned a thing. James, please, Eleanor pleaded. We're family. Family respects boundaries, he replied, his voice breaking slightly. Family supports each other's decisions, even if they don't understand them. Melanie stood too, her face flushed. We're trying to protect you. From what? I demanded, finally losing my composure. From making my own choices? From living my life on my own timeline? Do you honestly think I don't want children with James? Your actions speak louder than words, Rebecca shot back. That comment was 3 years ago, I exclaimed. Before I even met James. People change, perspectives evolve. I want children with your brother, just not right now. Convenient. Timing, Melanie muttered. Something in me snapped. No, what's convenient is how you've created this narrative where I'm the villain manipulating your brother, instead of facing the reality that James is an adult who makes his own decisions. The room fell silent. Eleanor looked between us, her expression pained. I've tried being understanding, I continued, surprising myself with my steadiness. I've respected that you're protective of James after what happened with Katie. But I am not her. I've been nothing but honest with your brother from day one. James took my hand, his touch grounding me. We're leaving, Mom. This was a mistake. As we headed for the door, Eleanor followed us, tears in her eyes. James, please. They're your sisters. He turned to her, his expression resolute but sad. And Liz is my wife, the family I chose. I won't let anyone, not even you, disrespect her or question our marriage. The drive home was quiet, both of us processing what had happened. When we reached our apartment, James sat heavily on the couch, looking defeated. I'm sorry, he whispered. I should have known Mom would pull something like this. I sat beside him, taking his hand. It's not your fault. I just don't understand why they won't listen, he said, frustration evident. Why they can't respect that this is our decision. I hesitated before speaking the thought that had been growing in my mind. James. I think this goes deeper than just the children issue. He looked at me quizzically. What do you mean? Your sisters have never fully accepted me, I said slowly. From the beginning, they've compared me to Katie, waiting for me to hurt you the same way. James didn't deny it. They were protective after the divorce. It's more than that, I insisted. They've never seen me as family. The children timeline is just their latest weapon. We sat in silence, the truth of my words settling between us. What do we do now? I finally asked. I don't want you to lose your family over this. James looked at me, his expression resolute. You are my family, Liz. My mother and sisters need to accept that. Until they can respect you, respect us, I need distance. But what about when we do have children? I pressed. Do you want them growing up without knowing their aunts, their grandmother? The question clearly troubled him. That's their choice to make. If they want to be part of our children's lives, they need to be part of our lives first, on our terms. As we sat together in the quiet of our apartment, I wondered if this rift could ever truly heal. Family wounds cut deep, and the accusations thrown at me weren't easily forgotten. But for James's sake, and for our future children, I hoped reconciliation was possible. The next morning, I woke to find James already up, nursing a cup of coffee at the kitchen table, his laptop open. Couldn't sleep? I asked, pouring my own cup. He shook his head. Been thinking about yesterday, about everything. I sat across from him, noting the determination in his eyes. And I want us to buy that house we've been saving for, he said. Sooner rather than later. The statement caught me off guard. What brought this on? Yesterday made me realize something, he explained. We've been putting our lives on hold, waiting for everyone's approval. My family's never going to give it, not until we show them we're serious about our plans. James, buying a house is a huge decision. We shouldn't do it just to prove something. To your family. It's not just about them, he insisted. It's about us taking control of our narrative. We said we were waiting to have children until we had a house, financial stability. Let's make that happen on our timeline. I studied him, uncertain. Are you sure this isn't a reaction to yesterday? He considered the question seriously. Maybe partly, but I've been thinking about this for weeks. That house in Oakwood we looked at. It's perfect for us. 3 bedrooms for when we do start our family. Good school district. Yard for a dog. The Poirier image was admittedly appealing. We'd been saving diligently, and with both our salaries, the mortgage would be manageable. What about your promotion? I asked. Shouldn't we wait to see if that comes through? We can afford it now, he said confidently, and your potential promotion would just make things more comfortable. I couldn't deny the logic, yet something still nagged at me. I don't want your family thinking I pushed you into this decision. Too. James's expression softened. Liz, we can't live our lives worrying about what they'll think. That's the whole problem. He had a point. Ever since we'd gotten engaged, I'd been subtly adjusting my behavior around his family, trying to win their approval. It hadn't worked. Okay, I said finally. Let's call the realtor today. James's face lit up. Really? Really, I confirmed. Let's build our future on our terms. 2 days later, we put in an offer on the Oakwood house. When it was accepted, James insisted on taking me out to celebrate. Over dinner at our favorite restaurant, away from family drama and expectations, I felt lighter than I had in weeks. To our new home, James toasted, raising his glass. To our future, I added, clinking my glass against his. As we enjoyed our meal, my phone buzzed with a text. Melanie's name appeared on the screen. I hesitated before opening it. Mom told us, "You bought a house," the message read. Funny timing. I showed James the text, irritation flaring. She's implying we bought the house to spite them. James shook his head, taking my phone and typing a reply before I could stop him. We bought the house we've been saving for, working on our timeline, as we've always said. If you want to be part of our lives going forward, you need to accept our decisions. He hit send before handing the phone back. Was that too harsh? He asked, a rare moment of doubt crossing his face. It was honest, I replied. Maybe honesty is what we need right now. My phone buzzed again almost immediately. Both of us tensed, expecting another barb from Melanie. Instead, it was a text from Eleanor. Congratulations on your new home. I'd love to see it when you're settled. I'm sorry about dinner. I should have respected your boundaries. I showed James the message, surprise evident on both our faces. That's unexpected, he said cautiously. It's a start, I offered. Maybe seeing us actually following through with our plans is making her reconsider. As the evening progressed, I couldn't help but feel hopeful. Perhaps buying the house wasn't just a step toward our future family, but also a step toward healing the present one. By asserting our independence and demonstrating our commitment to the plan we'd always described, we were showing his family that our decisions were thoughtful and deliberate. Later that night, as we lay in bed discussing paint colors and furniture, arrangements for our new home, another text came through, this time from Rebecca. I still think you're making James wait too long for kids, but congratulations on the house. It's a nice neighborhood. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't even particularly warm. But it was acknowledgement. And in the wake of recent events, that felt significant. Progress? I asked James, showing him the message. He read it thoughtfully. Baby steps, I guess. As I drifted off to sleep that night, I wondered if this was the beginning of reconciliation or merely a temporary truce. Either way, James and I were moving forward with our lives, our house, our timeline, our future family. If his sisters and mother wanted to be part of that journey, they would need to respect the path we'd chosen. And if they couldn't, well, we would walk it without them. Moving day arrived 6 weeks later, bringing with it the chaos of boxes, furniture, and decisions about where everything should go. James and I spent the morning directing movers, unpacking essentials, and arguing good-naturedly about furniture. Placement. The sectional should face the fireplace, I insisted, hands on my hips as I surveyed our new living room. James shook his head. But then you can't see the backyard through those big windows. Our playful debate was interrupted by the doorbell. We exchanged glances, both wondering who would visit in the middle of moving day. Probably neighbors welcoming us, I suggested, heading to answer. I opened the door to find Eleanor standing on our porch, holding a basket filled with cleaning supplies, paper towels, and a bottle of champagne. Moving day essentials, she explained with a tentative smile. May I come in? Surprise rendered me momentarily speechless before I stepped aside. Of course. James appeared in the hallway, his expression guarded as he spotted his mother. Mom, we weren't expecting you. Eleanor set her basket on a nearby box. I should have called first. She looked around at our half-assembled home. I wanted to help. The gesture seemed genuine, though tension lingered in the air between them. Since the disastrous dinner 6 weeks ago, contact had been minimal. A few texts about the house purchase, brief updates shared through Eleanor rather than directly with his sisters. Thank you, I said, breaking the awkward silence. We could actually use an extra pair of hands. James shot me a questioning look, which I answered with a subtle nod. We'd discussed giving his mother a chance to rebuild bridges. This seemed like her attempt. The morning progressed with Eleanor helping unpack kitchen boxes, making coffee runs, and gradually easing into more natural conversation with us. By lunchtime, when we sat among boxes eating delivered pizza, some of the strain had dissipated. The house is beautiful, Eleanor commented, looking around the spacious kitchen. You chose well. It has everything we need, James agreed, his tone warming slightly. Good neighborhood, space for a home office for Liz, and he hesitated before adding, a nice backyard for kids to play in eventually. Eleanor nodded, avoiding the loaded topic. The schools here are excellent. My friend Diane's daughter teaches 2nd grade at Oakwood Elementary. This neutral acknowledgement of our future plans, without criticism of our timeline, felt like progress. As Eleanor was preparing to leave that afternoon, she paused by the door. I've been thinking a lot about our dinner, she said quietly. I owe you both an apology. James and I exchanged surprised glances. It wasn't my place to question your decisions about when to start your family, she continued. I let my own expectations and your sister's concerns cloud my judgment. Thank you, Mom, James said, his voice thick with emotion. That means a lot. Eleanor looked at me directly. Liz, I'm sorry for not defending you, for letting them attack your character that way. The sincerity in her eyes moved me. I appreciate that, Eleanor. Would it be all right if I came by next weekend? She asked tentatively. Help you settle in more? We'd like that, I answered before James could speak, earning me a grateful smile from my husband. After she left, James pulled me into a tight embrace. Thank you, he whispered against my hair. For what? For being willing to try again with her, after everything they put you through. I leaned back to look at him. She's making an effort. That deserves recognition. The next few weeks brought A new rhythm to our lives. Settling into the house, establishing routines, meeting neighbors. Eleanor visited regularly, always respectful of our space and decisions. She never brought up children or timelines, focusing instead on helping us make the house a home with gardening advice and family recipes. James's sisters remained distant. Occasional text messages, stilted and formal, but no visits, no real attempts at reconciliation. Their absence was a tangible thing during Sunday dinners when Eleanor joined us, the empty chairs a reminder of the family fracture. One evening, as James and I relaxed on our new patio furniture, enjoying the September breeze, I broached the subject we'd been dancing around. "Have you talked to Melanie or Rebecca lately?" James swirled his wine thoughtfully. "Rebecca texted about Mom's birthday next month, asking if we'd be at the dinner." "Will we?" He sighed, looking out at the yard we'd spent weekends landscaping. "I don't know. Mom's made real efforts to respect our boundaries. They haven't." I chose my next words carefully. "Maybe seeing us in person would help? Show them we're serious about our plans, not just avoiding children?" "Maybe," he conceded. "Or maybe they'll use the opportunity to start the same arguments again." Before I could respond, my phone rang, an unknown number. I answered hesitantly. "Hello? Liz? It's Melanie." I straightened in my chair, signaling to James who was calling. "Melanie, this is unexpected." Her voice sounded strained. "I know. Can we talk? In person?" James moved closer, his expression concerned. I put the phone on speaker. "Why?" I asked directly. "Because I owe you an apology," she replied, the words rushing out. "A real one this time." James and I exchanged looks. This was the last thing we'd expected. "When were you thinking?" I asked cautiously. "Tomorrow? I could come to your house, the new house, if that's okay." After confirming details, I ended their call, turning to James with raised eyebrows. "What do you think that's about?" "I don't know," he admitted, "but Mom must have said something to get through to her." The next day, Melanie arrived precisely at the agreed time. She stood awkwardly on our doorstep, looking both determined and nervous. "Nice place," she offered, as I led her to the kitchen where James waited. "The garden is beautiful?" "Liz did most of that," James said, his tone neutral as he stood to greet, his sister with a stiff nod. We settled at the kitchen island, the centerpiece of our newly renovated space. I served coffee in uncomfortable silence before Melanie finally spoke. "I've been seeing a therapist," she announced abruptly. "Since everything happened." Not what I'd expected her to say. "Oh?" She nodded, fingers fidgeting with her mug. "Mom suggested it. Said I needed to examine why I was so invested in controlling your lives." James raised an eyebrow. "That's surprisingly insightful of Mom." "She's been doing some reflecting too," Melanie admitted. "After seeing how happy you both are here, following your own path." I stayed quiet, waiting for her to continue. "My therapist helped me see something," she said, looking down at her coffee. "This wasn't really about when you have children. It was about me feeling like I was losing my brother." James frowned. "You weren't losing me." "It felt that way," she countered. "Ever since Katie, you'd always included us in your decisions. Then you met Liz, and suddenly you were making life choices independently, without consulting us. Because that's what adults do," James said, though his tone had softened slightly. "I know that now," Melanie acknowledged. "Rationally, I always knew that. But emotionally?" She took a deep breath. "After Dad left, after Mom got sick, we three had to stick together, make decisions together. When you divorced Katie, you came back to us, relied on us again. Then Liz came along, and you were gone. Again, making your own family unit." The realization washed over me. "You were jealous." "We're jealous." Melanie flinched but nodded. "Not consciously. But yes, I think so. The timeline for children became this thing I could criticize. This way I could try to assert influence over your lives again. James sat back, processing her words. That doesn't excuse what you said to Liz. The accusations. No, it doesn't, Melanie agreed immediately. I was wrong. Completely wrong. I let my fear of losing you turn into unfair accusations against Liz. She turned to me directly. I'm truly sorry for questioning your integrity, for implying you manipulated James. I was protecting myself, not him. The sincerity in her voice was unmistakable. This wasn't the half apology from months ago, laden with subtle accusations. This was genuine remorse. Thank you, I said quietly. That means a lot. What about Rebecca? James asked. Does she feel the same way? Melanie grimaced slightly. She's getting there, more slowly. She's always been the most protective of you. She needs to apologize too, James insisted. To both of us, but especially to Liz. I know, Melanie acknowledged. I'm working on her. The therapist suggested family sessions eventually, if you'd both be open to that. The idea of formal mediation hadn't occurred to me, but it made sense. Professional help navigating these complex family dynamics could prevent future explosions. We might consider that, I offered, glancing at James for confirmation. He nodded slowly. Maybe. After Rebecca makes amends, too. As Melanie prepared to leave, she paused in our entryway. I really do love the house, she said sincerely. It's perfect for a family, whenever you're ready to start one. The subtle acknowledgement of our timeline, our choice, didn't go unnoticed. Thank you, James said, giving his sister a tentative hug. That means more than you know. After she left, James and I sat in our living room, processing the unexpected turn of events. Do you believe her? I asked finally. James considered the question seriously. I think so. She seemed genuine, and therapy explains the sudden insight. Eleanor's been busy, I observed with a small smile. Mom always could navigate family conflicts, James admitted, even if she sometimes creates them first. Over the next few weeks, a tentative peace developed. Melanie visited occasionally, always respectful, gradually rebuilding her relationship with James and forming a new one with me. One based on who I actually was, rather than her fears about who I might be. Rebecca remained distant, though her texts became less cold. Small steps. 4 months after moving into our house, as November brought a chill to the air, James received his promotion. We celebrated with Eleanor and Melanie at our home, the dinner markedly different from the disastrous 1 month earlier. As we cleared plates afterward, Eleanor pulled me aside in the kitchen. I have something for you, she said, handing me a small wrapped package. Inside was a delicate silver picture frame. For your first pregnancy photo, she explained. When you're ready. No pressure, no timeline. Tears pricked my eyes at the gesture, acknowledgement and acceptance of our choices. Thank you, I whispered, hugging her impulsively. Later that night, as James and I sat by our fireplace, I showed him the gift. She's really trying, he said, clearly moved. They all are, I observed, in their own ways. Except Rebecca, James noted. As if on cue, his phone chimed with a text. He read it, expression shifting from surprise to cautious hope. It's Rebecca, he said. She wants to meet for coffee next week. Just the two of us first, then with you if that goes well. I squeezed his hand. That's progress. It is, he agreed. Slow, but real. The following weekend, I was gardening in our front yard when a car pulled into our driveway. Rebecca emerged, looking uncertain as she approached. James isn't home, I said, standing and removing my gardening gloves. I know, she replied. I came to see you. Surprise must have shown on my face because she added quickly, if that's all right. I led her inside, curious about this unexpected visit. We settled in the kitchen, the heart of our new home, where so many conversations happened. I met with James yesterday, she began. He told me about your promotion at work. Yes, I confirmed, waiting for her to continue. Rebecca took a deep breath. I want to apologize, Liz. Really apologize this time. The words I'd waited months to hear hung between us. I stayed silent, giving her space to continue. I was unfair to you, she acknowledged. I judged you based on my fears, not your actions. I compared you to Katie when you've never given us any reason to doubt your commitment to James. Thank you for saying that, I said carefully. James told me about your 5-year plan, she continued. The house first, then children once you're both established in your careers. It's actually really sensible. Coming from Rebecca, this was significant acknowledgement. I shouldn't have questioned your timeline, she admitted, or implied you were manipulating James. He's happier with you than he ever was with Katie. Anyone can see that. The genuine remorse in her voice moved me. That means a lot, Rebecca. Can we start over? She asked tentatively. Not forget what happened, but move forward? I considered her request. The hurt hadn't disappeared entirely, but holding on to it served no purpose. I'd like that. Relief washed over her face. Thank you. As she was leaving, Rebecca paused by the nursery to be that we'd been using as a guest room. This will make a beautiful children's room someday, she observed, without pressure or judgment. That's the plan, I agreed. In about 1.5 years now. She smiled. A real smile this time. I'm looking forward to being an aunt. On your timeline. That evening, when James returned home, I recounted Rebecca's visit. She really apologized? He asked, amazed. Sincerely, I confirmed. I think she finally sees me as a person, not a threat. James pulled me close. So, where does this leave us with the family? Healing, I suggested. Slowly, but healing. 6 months later, as spring bloomed in our garden, we hosted a family dinner. Eleanor, Melanie, Rebecca, and their husbands gathered around our dining table. The conversation flowed easily, none of the tension that had characterized our interactions a year earlier. After dessert, James squeezed my hand under the table, our secret signal. I nodded slightly. We have something to share, he announced, his voice steady but excited. All eyes turned to us expectantly. We're going to start trying for a baby, I said, watching their reactions carefully. Next month. A beat of silence, then genuine smiles broke out around the table. That's wonderful news, Eleanor beamed. Whenever you're ready is the perfect time, Melanie added sincerely. Rebecca reached across the table to squeeze my hand. You'll be amazing parents. No criticism about waiting too long. No, I told you so about our timeline. Just support for our decision made on our terms when we were ready. Later, as we said goodnight to our guests, Rebecca hung back. Thank you, she said quietly. For what? I asked. For giving our family another chance, she replied. For not giving up on us even. When we made it difficult, James wrapped his arm around my waist. Family is worth fighting for, he said, even when they drive you crazy. Rebecca laughed, a genuine sound. Especially then. As they drove away, James and I stood in the doorway of our home, the home we'd built together, following our own path. We did it our way, I observed. We did, he agreed, kissing my temple. On our timeline. Do you regret standing up to them? I asked. Setting those boundaries? He shook his head firmly. Never. It was painful, but necessary. They needed to see us as equals, as our own family unit with our own decisions to make. I leaned into his embrace, thinking about the journey we'd traveled over the past year. From family conflict to healing, from accusations to understanding, from boundary setting to respect. "Ready for the next chapter?" he asked. I nodded, thinking of the nursery we would soon begin preparing, the family we would create on our own terms, in our own time. "More than ready," I replied. As we closed the door on the spring evening, I felt a profound sense of closure,